guys, today we're here and in this video we'll be covering the topic individual differences in human functioning. So here I want you guys to give this a thought that what is the major thing that psychology wants to talk about or that psychology wants us to understand. The very basic thing that psychology wants to bring about, the understanding it wants all of us to have, is that none of us are different. No two people are the same. Okay, so we're going to be different. We're going to be different from each other in one way or the other. So therefore, we're going to possess some uniqueness, at least some uniqueness. So basically what we need to understand, the keywords here are some commonalities plus some uniqueness. Right? The fact that no two people are the same. No two people are the same. Right? This is the basic understanding that we all need to have when we're studying psychology. In fact, this is just a very general thing that me and you, we can never be exactly the same. We'll have our common interests, likes, dislikes, but we're also going to have a lot of other things that maybe we're passionate about or maybe that we're interested in, which is very different from each other, right? So this is what this whole section in the chapter is going to deal with, that how we're different from each other in one way or the other. So now let's just try to define individual differences. The definition is very well given in the book. It says, basically, individual differences is nothing but distinctiveness and variations in people's characteristics and behavior patterns, right? So we're definitely going to differ in our characteristics, whether they are psychological in nature or whether they are physical in nature. And obviously, the way we react to different situations, the way we behave in different circumstances is also going to be very different from each other. That is what individual differences is talking about, that we're different in our characteristics as well as in our behavior patterns. So the two keywords that become important here are, just write it down, right? The first thing is we're going to differ in our characteristics. Now, obviously, we're going to deal with this characteristics part in detail in some time, but we're also going to differ in our behavior patterns, right? And you'll actually join the dots as soon as I, start going in more detail, right? So individual differences is distinctiveness in our characteristics and our behavior patterns, right? So no two people are the same. We're all going to be different from each other. There are going to be some commonalities, but also some uniqueness. Now that we're done with this, now that we've built a basic understanding of what this topic is trying to talk about, let us try and ponder upon the fact that why do these differences come about? Why do these differences exist? What are the causes behind these differences? So the first topic that we're going to cover to understand the causes of individual differences is actually variability. As the name suggests, we're going to vary in one form or the other. We're not going to be the same. We're going to differ. So our characteristics, our behavior patterns are going to differ, right? Now, what kind of characteristics am I talking about? I've been repeatedly talking about how we're going to differ in our characteristics. But what are these characteristics, right? Let's now divide these into two. The first thing is physical characteristics. I'm pretty sure you've already thought about what I'm going to say ahead, but I'm still going to say it. So obviously, we're never going to look the same. Our eye colors are going to be different. We're going to differ on our in our hair textures. Our complexions are going to be different. Our heights are not going to be the exact same. Our weights are not going to be the same. Therefore, we're going to differ. We're going to vary with respect to our physical characteristics. However, there is another way in which we can differ from each other. What is that way? Easy, guys. We're focusing on psychology. So psychology is going to come here. So the The second basis of differentiation is our psychological dimensions. So just like we're not gonna be the same with respect to our physical characteristics, we're also not going to be the same with respect to our psychological dimensions. So what can these dimensions include? Our intelligence, our personality, right? For example, I am an extrovert. So I am outgoing. I find it very easy to communicate with people around me, build a rapport with them. I enjoy the company of others. However, in contrast to me, you are an introvert, right? So you will find it very difficult to communicate with people, to build rapport with people. You'll be conservative, you'll be shy, you'll be less talkative, right? You'll not be straightforward, right? So these are some. So obviously we're going to differ on with respect to our psychological dimensions as well. Dimensions, right? And what else can psychological dimensions include? Our behavior patterns, our thinking patterns. So I think the topic is pretty clear, pretty concise, crisp, right? Clear. Now, do you really think that our individual differences stop at variability? I mean, we're going to differ in these dimensions and characteristics as I just spoke about, but are these the only causes behind our differences? I don't think so. I mean, it's very difficult for me to convince myself that it just stops there. So, what can be the second potential cause of these differences? Situationism. Again, the word suggests how the different situations we come across, how we behave to these, how we behave towards these situations, how we react to these situations is also going to be different, right? So, situationism, let's take an example again. That is how our environmental factors, how the change in situation or the circumstance around us is also going to, account for some differences. As I said, let's take an example. I am a person who is an extrovert and I am very outgoing. I find it very easy to communicate with people, build rapport with them, and probably build relationships. Now I'm a person and I have been applying for jobs for a really long time and I haven't been, I haven't gotten an offer. I haven't gotten acceptance from anywhere. Now one day I finally get acceptance and I have started working in this corporation. And now, whenever my boss enters the room, I find myself as a totally different person. Why? Because I become really shy. I become conscious of my own self. I become conservative. I fear him. Why? Because that boss is an authority figure. So now the situation has changed around me. The environmental factors have dynamically changed, right? So the dynamics of the environment have changed. Why? Because as compared to before, I was outgoing. My usual personality is outgoing, straightforward. But now, because there's a change in the environment, change in the situation, because of the presence of an authority figure, my behavior, my reaction towards the situation has also changed, right? So this is what situationism is talking about. Different reactions to changing situations or circumstances. Now we first spoke about variability, and then we spoke about situationism. Now, remind yourselves that in variability, we basically spoke about that how we differ in our physical characteristics and as well as in our psychological dimensions. Now, what I'm getting at here is what I'm trying to focus upon here is that when we talk about variability, we're basically talking about the core factors that cause our differences. So basically, core or internal factors that cause differences. So we are different from each other because of our internal factors, because of our physical characteristics, such as height, weight, etc., and also because of our psychological dimensions, such as difference in intelligence, in our personality, in our thinking patterns, behavior patterns, etc. Now, when I talk about situationism, our focus changes, our focus point changes, because then it becomes how external factors also bring about differences, how different situations, kind of brings about a different reaction from our side, kind of brings about a different behavior pattern from our side, and that is why situationism also accounts for individual differences. I hope if you you guys develop this understanding how the dynamics of or kind of how the interaction between our internal factors and external factors is actually responsible for our individual differences. This whole section will be pretty clear to you guys. I'm pretty sure about it. The last thing, to sum up this section, you can actually remember the section as individual differences is equal to variability plus situation. So variability accounts for the internal factors and explain that. So variability, internal factors, and talk about physical characteristics as well as psychological. And in situation, talk about external factors, different reactions to different situations. That's all for this section, guys. I hope it was clear. See you.